They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming for you, Barbara.
Metallica. Love them or hate them, everybody has an opinion. Mr. Joshua, what's yours?
They're all right. They've had some great moments. They've had some less than stellar moments. Like any band that's been around a long time, that's a good, talented band. I enjoy them. Not nowhere near the top of my list, but a good band.
And I am a big fan of Metallica, my third favorite band. And like you said, some stellar moments. I think we're about to review a stellar moment here. Metallica's Death Magnetic. I actually wrote another intro for this podcast, and it's just really corny. So I'm going to go ahead and read it now, and you tell me what you think. The day that never comes has finally arrived. My apocalypse will leave you broken, beaten, scarred all nightmare long. Don't take cyanide for suicide and redemption or to reach the end of the line. The Judas kiss, that was just your life, because you are the unforgiven. Corny?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good considering, like, the album has a great theme. So that's a recurring theme. I think that's why they came up with the name of Death Magnetic, because it's all these weird themes about death. And
every song had a reference to death and how people are drawn to it or pushed away from it.
Yeah, something related to it. And I think so. Yeah, it's pretty cheesy though.
All right, so let's just give you if you don't know already, you're kind of been living in a closet or Dubai or something like that. I don't know.
Or maybe you like Taylor Swift a lot.
So we're going to kind of just give you a brief overview of Metallica. Metallica started, first album came out in 1983. Their first three albums are like universally accepted as some of the best thrash music ever. They're one of... we may not feel that way,
Kill
but
'Em All doesn't have that high of regard, I would say, but yeah.
Definitely Ride the Lightning.
Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, the second and third albums, definitely were held, I would agree, are definitely held in that regard.
And then their bass player, Cliff Burton, died. In 1986, 87, around there, they brought in Jason Newsted and recorded their fourth album, And Justice for All. This is when they started to do music videos and stuff like that. Their popularity started to get pretty big. They were considered, that was when kind of the Big Four thing started around then.
And I wonder if we're going to be talking about Injustice at any point.
I think we may.
We'll get to that later.
Then in 1991, I think it was, 92? 91. Black Album came out, the self-titled Metallica.
You got to make it proper there that it would be the self-titled.
Yes. Then they just went up to superstardom, and this is where their music started to change from the thrash that you had seen on the first four albums to a more, heavy metal still, but a more, kind of
marketable,
yeah. Kind of music.
It still rocked. It was still pretty good. It was aggressive, but it was you could call it old man aggressive.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, they weren't old men at that point.
No,
they are now, but not then.
Yeah.
And then in '96, they came out with Load, which was universally kind of hated by most Metallica fans.
Most Metallica fans, not
who
all.
Who had been Metallica fans from the early days.
They felt betrayed. I don't know how they didn't feel this on the last album. Wouldn't you have felt that way kind of when the Black Album came out? But I don't know.
I mean, it was still kind of heavy. The Load had a lot of softer moments.
Oh, yeah. They were dabbling.
Yeah, and then they released Reload as that was kind of, they wanted to release Load as a double disc set, but they just didn't want to take too much time fixing all those other songs, so they went back into the studio a year and a half later and finished up all of those songs, and that became Reload.
And it definitely feels like the second part of the album. It's very similar feel. There's some moments that are better, but I think it's an inferior album compared to Load. It kind of feels like the throwaway songs they just had left over.
And they do get a little bit heavier on a lot of the songs, and I think that was just the backlash that they heard from everybody. It's not as soft as Load is.
Yeah, but then you get Fuel. This is good. Arguably, some would argue the band's low point.
Then they lost their other bass player in 2002 when they were recording, or 2001 they were recording, starting their what would that be, their eighth album, which actually came out in 2003, Saint Anger, and some people liked it because it was a return to the heavier music that you had heard from them before, but the production on that one with Bob Rock just sucked. It was terrible.
I mean, yeah, the production was bad. The band wasn't in a good place at the time. I mean, there's the whole documentary of Some Kind of Monster during the making of how, I mean, it took them so long for almost, I think it was like 8 months or 9 months. James was in rehab.
Yeah, he was out for a while.
So, and pretty much it was, it just didn't feel, I mean, the production with the snare drum, the hollow sound it had, and the fact that there's absolutely no guitar solos on the entire album.
Which is something that is argued about on the Some Kind of Monster DVD. Kirk did actually want to put them in there, and they weren't. And then at the end of Some Kind of Monster, you actually see they get their new bass player, Robert Trujillo. So he was in Ozzy Osbourne. He was in Suicidal Tendencies.
Jerry Cantrell,
Black Label Society. So he'd been around the block quite a bit.
He's one of them traveling musicians.
Yeah. And they offered him like a $1 million signing contract just to sign on to the band. So then in 2008, we get the album that we're going to be reviewing today. And this is actually Robert Trujillo's first album with the band.
Did he have any? I don't think he had any writing contributions on this one, did he?
Actually, all 4 band members are give writing contributions for every single song. It says all music by Hetfield, Ulrich, Hammett, and Trujillo. All lyrics by James Hetfield.
It's odd, considering now on the new album, I know we're already going a little off topic, but on the new album, the writing credits are almost completely Hetfield and Ulrich. Kirk Hammett doesn't have a single writing credit on it.
Because he had actually lost his cell phone, which had all of his stuff.
All of his stuff, and he just didn't have time. And the only contribution from Trujillo was the intro to Man Unkind. So it's odd that I wonder if it really was a collaborative, or if that's just like the way Sabbath did it back in the day, where all 4 got credit because hey, we're a band.
Yeah, it could be that way, and that might have been the way they were feeling at the moment. But Metallica's always been a band that tells you exactly who wrote every single song.
Yeah,
they've always done that. It's not something that's ever kept hidden or anything like that. So the album was released on September 12th, 2008. It was their 9th studio album, if you don't include the Garage Inc. cover album. Their 9th studio of original material. This one, they had been with Bob Rock, the producer from the Black Album, Load, Reload, and Saint Anger. They finally got rid of him because of the backlash of the production on Saint Anger, and they brought in Rick Rubin. And if you ask me, the production on Death Magnetic is actually worse than Saint Anger. He has that whole loudness thing where everything is just, turned up to 11. This one goes to 11.
There's lots of arguments over the sound and everything. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think while the production is worse, like there's a reason why no one talks about it, but it's a passing note because it's not that big a deal. The album's
because the songs are great, but however, I think that if the production on Death Magnetic would have been as good as it is on the new album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, I think that album would actually, gain a step or 2 on my rating, because it just would have sounded so much better. As it stands now, like, I can't make any compilation CDs with it, and when I listen to this song at a good volume for a good amount of time, I start to get a headache and stuff like that, which is common with this whole loudness thing that's going on these days. Rick Rubin is one of the worst offenders. I will say this about Rick Rubin: he knows how to inspire the bands to write good music, though. He did it with Johnny Cash, Black Sabbath on 13, Metallica
we
here
can
on Death
talk
Magnetic.
about the producing savvy that Mr. Rubin has, and how some people love him or hate him. He's got a lot of different techniques that some people say inspire you to perform a little better, to reach the top of your game. Some say going a little too far, pushing a little too much. It depends. Everybody likes working with people in different ways. It doesn't bother me. I jam the album. I don't wear headphones very often. Maybe that might be the reason I don't have.
Well, even if I'm doing it in my car, it's to the point where it's just it hurts after a while.
Oh.
Kind of gives me a headache when I'm listening to it at a good volume. But yeah, so just going to kind of go through this album track by track. First off, I've got our vinyl here. And what do you think about the album artwork that we got here?
The artwork, as you passed it to me, which I've looked at many times, I like it kind of. It's interesting. It's different. What I really liked was the CD version. I think the original special edition had where each page was actually cut out.
Yeah, so it
dug into the ground.
The top one is yours is like you're digging down the layers of the ground
all the way to the coffin. Yeah, if you're obviously you can't. I'm not going to go through explaining the whole image. I imagine you've seen it. If not, look it up to understand. But yeah, with the coffin being at the bottom and everything, yeah, I really liked that. I thought it was one of the cooler trick, little things. Kind of bringing it back to like the days when vinyl used to give you different treats and you would get it, or now that they're starting to do with CDs because they're going out of style, they make all the special editions and stuff. And I thought it was a pretty neat way to make a good piece of marketing.
And this was also the first time they used the original Metallica logo since, I believe, the Black Album.
Really?
It wasn't on Load, wasn't on Reload, wasn't on St. Anger.
Interesting.
So let's just start with the first track. That was Just Your Life. For me, this is the best opener since Black and Justice, man. This one just, every time I listen to it, it gets me super pumped. Like, I know, like, on a Friday, I've worked all week, I'm finally off, I throw this on, and it just gets me pumped up for the weekend. I love listening to this song. And it really kind of gives you just an idea of what you're going to be expecting for this album. If you listen to, Frantic on St. Anger, you get Fuel and Ate My Bitch, I think, on Load. Mm-hmm. Those are just, and even Enter Sandman, they're kind of weak opening tracks in my opinion. But this one is just like, okay, this is going to be a pretty heavy and intense album. And this song, you get the first solo that Metallica has had since the song I Disappear from the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack 8 years before this. Since there was no solos on St. Anger, this is the first one since I Disappear.
It was the last thing with Newstead, wasn't it?
I believe that was the last one that they released, yeah.
They actually recorded with him.
What are your thoughts?
So, I am actually not a fan of this song. It's one of my least favorite on the album. While I think I do agree that it is a fantastic opener to the album, definitely shows that their band is coming back into their form. It just doesn't do it for me. I'm really not a fan of the main riff. The vocals don't really sell me on the song. I do, comparing this song and saying it's a bad song is like saying, yeah, like a bad thing from something that's really, it's like I got this bad bite out of a bad chip in my bag of really good chips or whatever. I'm trying to think of a good one, but that kind of meaning of, yes, it's the one, it's something I'm not a huge
That was a
fan
terrible
of.
metaphor, by the way.
I'm flying off the cusp here. I think it is good that it brought it back. Yes, the solo, everything. You knew it was going to be a great return. But when you listen to the album as a whole, I just don't think it holds up to the other tracks. And the fact that you compare it to Blackened just hurts. It's not. Well,
I said it was the best song since Blackened.
Okay.
It's not better than Blackened.
Okay, good.
And for a while, this was one of my top 2 songs on the album.
Really?
When you first
got it.
Yeah, when I first got it, this one I really, really dug. So why don't you start us off with the second song, The End of the Line?
So The End of the Line, I think this is a good one. It's definitely not one of the best songs on the album, but it's definitely an improvement on the last one. I think it stands out that the band's back. They're recording the music that, when you think of Metallica, you think of those first 4 albums, albums 2 through 4, really. Those middle 3, that's a great trilogy of albums that showed the band developing on a path. You can even want to include how that development went with the first album. And yeah, you could argue that the Black Album was the eventual path, but this is like how it should have been. When you reach that peak, I suppose you have to stay relevant. You have to, and this song shows we're back. We're great. We got. This is the spiritual successor to Injustice for All.
I would agree.
It feels like the return, and while the song to me doesn't stand out, there's nothing really special. I do like the chugging riff it's got. It's got like I don't know how to describe it besides like a chugging riff, and then it's got this groovy part. There's some cool riffs in it. It's fun, but it's nothing special compared to the rest of the album. But again, you're comparing.
So you didn't like the first song, and then this song, nothing special.
Nothing special
compared to the rest of the album. All right, well, I'm interested to see how you go from here.
Yeah.
For me, The End of the Line, it slows down a little bit. Like the first song is like super thrashy, great way to start out the album. This one just slows down slightly, just a little bit, but it doesn't lose any of the power that first song had. I love the lyrics to the verses. I think they're amazing, but the chorus just doesn't do that much for me. The another great solo on this, and heavy on the wah-wah, like, you know, Kirk's just going at it, and you get the wow, 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 wow. You know, he's got the wah-wah going on this one. And already, we've got 2 songs in, we've got 2 solos already. Wow. And that's 200% more than we got on St. Anger.
Well, I think we get more than 2. I don't know. I'd have to look to. I think some of these songs have more than one.
I think there might be 2 on this one. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. And you know, it sets the stage. You know that every song on this album is probably going to have a solo, and I think every song does.
Every song does.
At least
some
one.
have more than
multiple one.
I know for a fact that Suicide Redemption does, but
yeah, for sure. The whole song's a solo. But yeah.
Well, and then the slowdown where it kind of gets a little bit in the middle of the song where he goes through the the slowdown part, and then it's the slave becomes the master or whatever that part is.
I knew we would get you singing on this one.
Yeah.
You won't get me singing on this one.
And it's just nothing really great about it. Even when the heavy part starts up again, it's not that great. But I dig it. I mean, 2 songs, 2 great tracks so far. I'm loving this album.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and take the third one. You took the second. I'll take the third. All right. Broken Beat and Scarred. It's kind of a medium to heavy chugger song. Kind of, it slows down a little bit more, but it's just that, medium heavy chugging
man.
song.
The song that's the whole album. I think has that. You might hear me say. I mean, we can just continue to keep using that because that's a lot of these songs have that feel.
A lot of the songs do have the feel, but I think there's some of the songs that have more of that thrashy, heavy, just fast. Furious.
Not every song does, yeah.
But this one here, I like the verses and the chorus on this one. I think the lyrics are good, and this one's for me a step above the end of the line. I think it's a little bit better. And on this song and the 2 previous ones so far, all 3 solos on these songs are rockin' solos. They're all great. I haven't heard a bad solo yet on this album. And I don't have any idea why they would have left them out of St. Anger. I'll never know.
I mean, you won't even hear me say there's a bad solo because there's not gonna be a bad solo. They're, Metallica, they're professionals. They know what they're doing. They're not in a business in the same way Kiss is, but they're in the business of making music and they know what they're doing. So I mean, Kirk's gonna lay it on. We're gonna get great solos every time.
James even does one on the album. I know at least 1 or 2.
I know he does in Suicide and Redemption.
Everybody's just, Kirk's shredding on this album.
Very rarely do I need to point out the solos because I'm in fact I'm only going to make the comment on one solo because to me it's the most standout solo on the album. So I've prepared my thoughts on that.
All right.
For the most
part.
What
are your thoughts on Broken Beat and Scarred?
It's one of my favorite songs on the album. I'm a huge fan of this song. The intro is great. I really like the verse as well and stuff. It's weird because again I'm not a huge fan of lyrics. I'll go ahead and say this now. You're very rarely going to hear me point out how much I really like lyrics to something, but I like the way the flow of the vocals is what's more important to me. Sometimes the lyrics are going to be stand out, and the lyrics on the song are pretty good.
Like
definitely.
You don't listen to Weird Al for just the sound of it. I mean, the
that's
lyrics are very important.
That's the main thing you're going to hear me talking about if I'm doing that. But for me, when I listen to metal, I know the lyrics of the song and everything, but I don't really care about them as much as the way the music flows with me and the flow of the vocals. I think was it Ozzy? Isn't that how he would do his vocal parts, but just say where it was going to be or something like that?
I'm not sure.
And then Geezer would write the lyrics to it or something like that. So it's important on how they flow with the song. And I really think the song does a great job. The lyrics are cool, yes, but just the way it feels when very
Broken Beat and Scarred.
James has a really distinct voice that's
we
stands
die
out,
hard.
A lot. And so there you go singing again, man. You're all pumped up. And
well, I don't know if I've said this. I think I have, and you get the idea I have, that I freaking love this album. This is like Metallica's return to form.
I mean,
it's amazing.
It's my second favorite Metallica album since I guess we're kind of just weirdly putting this in the middle of the songs. But yes, I love this album. It's hard to have not make everything complimentary about it because I do enjoy it. I think it stands out as every song on this album, even the ones that I'm not a fan of, are great. They're some of the best.
I agree.
Some of the better stuff that would rival some of the good songs on albums that some of the better more loved albums like the early work. And this song to me is when I finally fell in love with the album. I knew I was in for it now, and for me, I kind of had fallen out of love with Metallica. It's a band I liked a lot when I was first getting into metal, and then they kind of became a band that they were there, and I didn't really care as much. And this album, no.
It brought it back.
I was excited for the new album because of this. When this one was coming out, until I heard something from it, I didn't care.
Yeah.
After this, I was ready for what else the band was going to put out, because I thought maybe they were saved. Every band, lots of bands, if you stick around long enough, you're going to have short times. This is when I knew I was in. Top songs. You'll hear me talk about it when we list our favorite songs on the album. This is going to be on that list.
All right, so why don't you take the next one, song number 4, The Day That Never Comes.
The first single from the album, the first thing I heard. Why don't they call it, instead of calling it The Day That Never Comes, why don't they call it 2008?
Yeah, I have that in my notes too.
It is literally the same song, just redone essentially, and oddly it didn't bother me. That surprises me that it doesn't bother me. I really liked. One is a great song. I mean, it's a song that
if you're gonna copy a song, one is a good one.
One is a great one. The way it starts
kind
off,
of make the next generation.
That starts off mellow and builds until you finally get to the part where you hit the aggression, and then you get the great solo at the end. It follows the exact same template. I mean, what more do you need to say about it? It was done great the first time. Done as good this time. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd put it on the level of 1. It's up there. They're close. They're close.
It's close.
So for me, just piggybacking what you said about 1, I'd read an article actually one time about they asked Lars somewhere, I don't remember where it was, what album they got the most inspiration for Death Magnetic from, and they said Justice. And you can totally tell. By this point, it's obvious. This is kind of, they use the Justice formula for this album. And
great. That's the right album to choose.
Yeah, that's my favorite album. I think that's yours as well.
My favorite album too. Yeah, I think it's one of the greatest metal albums of all time. In fact, and if
it's one of my probably top 10 of every genre that I like. It's one of my top 10 favorite albums. Justice.
I made you my list of 100 greatest albums. I don't remember what I put it at, but I know it was in the top 20.
Yeah, it was pretty much up there. So this, like you said, this was the first single for the album. It starts slow and builds to like a furious ending, just like 1 did. And there's that great "Love is a 4-letter word." I love that part. That's actually how I was going to bring in this song. Again, solo awesomeness. Probably the best solos on the album, I personally think. I think they are the best solos in the album. But my one complaint about this, and I will put this as my 3rd favorite song on the album. My one complaint on this album is the terrible production really shines through on this song, especially when it gets really, really intense and heavy. I feel like the production kind of takes me out of the song a little bit.
Man, I guess I just you got to remember too. Production usually isn't as big a deal to me. I listen to like the first couple of Carcass albums are pretty much the most awful production you can get, and I really can enjoy those albums. So, like I don't think I've ever considered it myself a problem once while listening to the album at any point. And I've read all these things about it, and I can hear why it's a problem. But it does not bother me in the slightest. It's so funny.
And I have a problem with the production, yes. However, for what Rick Rubin got out of them, to record this album and what he inspired them to do, I will take his terrible production any day of the week, because this album is still amazing, even though the production is terrible.
Yeah, and what I think was one of the more important things about it is I was reading about how they went in with every song pretty much already done on how they wanted it.
So they just went in and recorded them.
Yeah, they had already pretty much demoed them. That was one thing that he changed very much different from how Bob Rock did. Was when you come in, you have your songs ready, you know what you're looking for, and we'll just fine tune them. We'll just get them exactly how you want. So yes, that in a sense he inspired them to write it that way. But at the end of the day, all he did was fine tune what they did, and
he didn't want them fiddling with things in the studio. He wanted them to come in with the songs that they wanted to record at the highest possible, level of completion that they could. And it was something like, if you watch a year and a half in the life of Metallica, they spent crazy amount of time in the studio writing these songs, and then always try to fine tune them and all this stuff. That was something that Bob Rock was big on. adding a part here. Let's change this up. Oh, I'm not really digging this. Come in, have your songs written, come in and record them. Alice Cooper does that too, and it works out great. Short time in the studio, and you get the real inspiring stuff in an area where you're not pressured to do anything. You're just kind of hanging out as a group and recording those songs on your own terms and getting those writing juices flowing on your own terms.
Yeah, you're just fine tuning what you've already crafted, at your own convenience, and so there isn't that pressure now. One thing I want to ask, I was going to bring this up later, but the Beyond Magnetic stuff that was recorded. Was that recorded at the exact same time, or did they finish that at a later point?
I think they finished it at a later point. Those were 4 songs that were left on the cutting room. They had, I don't think they were like. I honestly I don't know, but to my understanding, they weren't coming along as good as they thought they were, and they weren't gonna be. They kind of looked at the songs and they're like, okay, these are the songs we want to finish and complete. Same kind of thing that they did with the songs on Load and Reload. And then, okay, well, maybe we'll release these ones at another time. So they kind of shelved them at a certain point in their production. It's probably different levels for different songs. And then came back in and finished them, or, just fine-tuned them kind of thing.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure, since we were talking about how, coming into the studio with that mindset of, we've got our song, they had a few more. And, I think it stands out. We're not talking about Beyond Magnetic for a reason, because those songs I don't think stand, they're still good songs. Definitely better than a lot of the stuff they have been doing, but the album didn't need them. I'm glad they cut. I'm kind of glad they kept them off of it. And again, you don't need that. As much as I like it, having it long. Sometimes having it, what's the album, like 75 minutes or something like that.
76, I think.
You don't need a longer album.
No. I take that back. No, never mind. I was thinking of another album.
But going with that in mind, these songs are long as it is. I think there's only one of them that's Broken Beat and Scarred is 6.5.
Every single song is over 6 minutes, but one, and that's the last song on the album, and that one is just 5 minutes.
Yeah, and
that's still longer than most band songs.
And still, out of that, only 2 of those songs are out of the 10 songs. 2 of those are in the 6-minute range. All of the rest are 7 or more. So definitely toning down the album, getting all those songs out of there, I think is the right call, and not releasing it with a bonus disc or anything either. So that way you're not having to absorb it, because if you listen to it, it's a full experience, and this album feels like it. Moving on to the next song.
Well, and I just want to say something about, we were talking about the length of the songs and stuff like that. I hear a lot of people talk about, Iron Maiden or Metallica, these songs are too long. They get, it's just kind of like, they're playing with their instruments kind of thing, if you can take from that whatever you'd like. But just kind of playing with their instruments, it needs to be trimmed, the fat needs to be trimmed down. I disagree. The more and more I've listened to music, the more I've gotten the idea that I like the longer songs. You can do so much more with them, tempo changes and signature changes and all kinds of different things that you can do. A song takes on a life of its own when you get up to the 6-7 minutes kind of time limit, whereas you have a 3-minute song, all it is just 3 minutes of verse, chorus, song's over. I really dig the long songs, so this was one of the albums that kind of started that for me, enjoying the longer songs a lot more than I did the shorter songs.
We're gonna have to, if we're gonna talk about long songs, yes, we're both a fan. I believe we talked about this before. Both are a big fan of long songs, but not to underplay short songs and what you can do within quite a bit. But when you do have a long song, you have the opportunity. Now it should feel natural. There's like, for example, a band I'm a fan of, Opeth, some of their early work, they would have 15-minute songs and stuff. And there would some be times where we would just literally just pause and move on to a different segue, and that's not natural.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm in a different song. But if it moves, and you can do a 15-minute long song, where it's fun the whole ride. You don't feel bored ever. You don't feel. It feels natural, but it feels like it's taking you on an adventure for the whole time. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the strong points of the album. Every song I hear is pretty long.
And they're not boring either.
They're not boring.
So I'll take song number 5, my second favorite song on the album. I love the intro to this song, the way it just kind of, that weird guitar sound and just kind of builds up, and then you break into the song. I love the intro on this one. The video, I don't know if you've seen the video for this song. It's all about the Tunguska explosion in Siberia in like 1909 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, I think I've watched.
And there's
it.
just weird alien things that come out of it. I love the music video. I don't think you even see the band. It's all like weird kind of old timey footage. I heard from a lot of people, and I've read on forums and stuff like this, that a lot of people, this is their favorite song on the album.
Yeah, I can understand that. I really liked it a lot at first. It really stands out. It grabs you right away.
I actually, honestly, I kind of forget about how good this song is a lot of the time. Even though it is my second favorite song on the album, like, for whatever reason, when I'm listening to the album, this song comes on, and I remember every time, it's like I rediscover how much I love this song. It's kind of weird how it works. It's just on this one here. But I love James's vocals on this one, and he's just like spitting them out almost. He's got kind of an attitude to the lyrics, to the vocals, and I love All Nightmare Long. Second favorite song.
It was my favorite at first, and it's now near the bottom actually for me. I'm not as in love with it as I used to be. It just kind of faded a little for me. I mean, it's another chugger moving along. It's got a nice chorus, I like the way that flows, and but it, as it's worn on, it's like sometimes you fall in love with something, and then once its shine is worn off a little bit, it doesn't hold up to what the other toys you got. So, and that's how I feel about this. I don't really have much more to say. It did grab me right away, and I understand why so many people love it, because it does have that appeal. I think that's the reason you released it as a single, because what those kind of songs. It was the second single.
I think it was the second single.
Yeah, so I mean, what you're doing. What people are gonna like, and I wish I liked it more now still, but it's a great song. It's a good song.
All right, so why don't you take the next one, Cyanide.
Cyanide. This song, it's kind of the reverse. I didn't really care for this song a lot at first when I first started jamming the album, and it's kind of grown on me a little bit. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a chill song, really. One of the more, I would say, compared to some of the other songs on the album, it doesn't feel as aggressive.
It's not really a chugger, but it's not really a thrasher either.
It's like mellow, aggressive metal. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's something, like I said, at first it didn't appeal to me, but it did grow. I like the riff in it a lot. It's just a lot of fun.
For Cyanide, this was actually the first song I heard from the album. They actually released a live video of it at one of the shows they premiered it at or whatever. So this was actually the first song I heard from the album, albeit it was a live version of it.
Yeah, you do follow him a lot more and keep up with your 20 fans.
Yeah. So I do want to make a note here. This is song number 6. The album has 10 songs on it, so we're at the middle point of the album. And I think this is where the album kind of dips a little bit. For me, the first 5 songs, obviously my second and third favorite song were in there. I loved all the first songs on the first 5 songs on this album. This one kind of takes a step back for me. This song's kind of filler to me. It's good filler. I still like the song, but it doesn't seem like it's on the level of those first 5 songs. And kind of the second half of the album is the same way. It's not on the level that the first 5 songs were, which you kind of also get with the new Metallica, with the first disc being really, really rockin'. The best songs on the album are all there. And then on the second half, there's one really great song on there. The other ones are just kind of, they're okay. I mean, they're good, but they're not great. They're not awesome. So I kind of feel that way about Cyanide.
Man, and I can't agree with either of those statements. I mean, for starters, I think, this album is very up and down on the way the songs go, in my opinion. And that's one of the things I think is cool about it. It's again, they're all great, but as far as like the really great songs and the more average songs, I think you get some at the beginning, you get and it builds, and then it gets great, and then you tone it down a little bit, and then it gets great, and then it goes down a little, and I think that's one of the cool things about it is it's not like how you feel about it, where it's like the first half is great. You see that a lot with albums. You'll have sections on it, parts, beginning and middles of albums that are great. I can see where you would have that perspective. But obviously, by the way we talked about the first half of the songs, I see the album a little differently. And I see the new album differently. Hardwired is on the first disc, so how can you say that this is amazing? So, but we're not talking about that. I think this song, it's one of the better songs. I don't know if it's in my top 5. It's definitely not in my top 3. It might be. If it's not my top 5, it's right after.
So then it's like right in the middle of the pack for you.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle of the pack. It's one of the songs at first I didn't care for, but it definitely now I feel it like crazy.
All right, so I'm going to take the next one here. The next one is actually the wussiest song on the album, and it is my number 1 song on the album. That would be part 3 of The Unforgiven. Unforgiven 3. I love this song. I don't know what it is about this. I don't really care for the first Unforgiven. Probably my least favorite song on the Black Album, possibly. This one here, or the second one, is okay. I can listen to it. But the third one, I love this song. This actually, one of my favorite Metallica songs. Top 10 favorite Metallica songs, easy. The piano intro, while I like it, it kind of feels like it doesn't belong on this album. It's a good intro, but it just, with the way the album's been going, it doesn't feel like it belongs there. Like I said, it's also my favorite Unforgiven. It's a nice slow down point to the album. By song 6, we're really, really pretty heavy into it. The slowest part you had was the build up in The Day That Never Comes, and then it gets just like obsessively thrashy and heavy. So this is a nice kind of slow down. It's not like a ballad or anything like that, but it's a nice little slow down to the song. And I don't know why I love it so much, but I just do. It's the best song on the album.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. It is definitely the best song on the album, and it is definitely one of my favorite Metallica songs as well. I think that I don't agree with you that it's wussy or anything like that. I mean, I think the piano intro also is fantastic, and I understand how you say it takes it, kind of slows it down. I do agree it kind of slows the album down, but just like The Day That Never Comes, it's really got that that slow build to the song and to the way it reaches this peak. And I think that the whole album is great, but the solos on this song are really what you mentioned how I think was it The Day That Never Comes had your favorite solos?
Yes.
I think this one has the best solos on the whole album, hands down. It's like crazy aggressive soloing. It does, because again, it builds to that. It rises to the point where you're just in love with this song that's going, and it makes it so much more powerful when you have that build. It's like the way Dad described watching John Wick, and how it's like, oh, there's all these great action scenes, but there's no emotional build to it, that where you get to care about what's happening and stuff like that. And that, movies need that. Same thing with sometimes it's great when you got a song that's aggressive from start to finish, but sometimes when you build to that point, like in The Day That Never Comes, like in this song, and I think that's why you see it on both of your lists, on the top songs on the album, and both those songs on my list of the top songs of the album, because it just makes that emotional moment when it happens and it kicks in and you just feel it. It's so great, and that's how the song feels to me. Every time those solos, I used to play it on Guitar Hero all the time, and I could never really, I could only, it was one of the only songs on the album I could almost pass on Expert, because the songs were all pretty hard, and I could usually pass the easier stuff on Expert, but not this one. But I actually passed this song a couple times. It was really fun to play. Great song, one of the best Metallica songs. I mean, we could rate.
Most people hate it.
Do they?
A lot of people do hate it, just because it's that whole Unforgiven 3 stuff.
And
whatever.
I love the Unforgiven. I disagreed with you on that statement too. I love the Unforgiven. I'm pretty meh about Unforgiven 2, but Unforgiven 3, fantastic. Best of the Unforgiven for sure.
Absolutely. And obviously for us, best song on the album for both of us.
Absolutely.
So why don't you take the next one?
So the next
Judas
song,
Kiss.
Judas Kiss, I think this is really kind of when you say how you can say the second half of the album has down points. This is one of those songs you're really hitting a down point on it. It's one of the worst songs on the album, probably my second least favorite on the album. It doesn't do anything for me. It's pretty meh. It's okay. It's great. It's a good song. I mean, but at the end of the day, I don't get into it. It plays. I sing it. If I'm jamming, if I'm in a jammy mood, I might sing it a little. If I'm not, I'm definitely not going to be singing. I'll just be jamming in my own little way. But never will you see me rocking out in my car to this song.
Yeah, and second least favorite song on the album, either this or Cyanide for me. I think this is kind of just standard fare. It's another good filler. I mean, it's good. it's just missing something that would just like put it over the top. I don't know what it is. I mean, like I said, the song is decent enough, but there's just something missing that it needs to just kind of move it forward into some kind of greatness that is just missing for whatever reason. The solo is good, obviously. I mean, but by this point in the album, we already know that the solos are great. So
and you just passed the best solo in my opinion on the album. So
I stopped mentioning the solos because I was just
what's the point? That's the reason I only pointed out the one.
And I had to say something good about the song, and it was the solo.
Yeah, the riff is awful. It's definitely not a cool riff.
The Judas Kiss.
Yeah. I can be our guitar, and you can be our vocalist.
I'll be the vocalist.
There you go.
So I'll go ahead and take Suicide and Redemption, the 9th song, and finally we get another instrumental on a Metallica album.
So great.
I love the Metallica instrumentals, and this has been gone since the Black Album, not the Black Album, Justice, really since Master.
There was a spoken word. I'm not counting that. To Live Is to Die is an instrumental. Hands down, I consider it an instrumental.
But that's a great one. Suicide and Redemption is a great one. Orion's great. The Call of Cthulhu is great. Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth is a good one. So they've got great instrumentals, and I was missing those on the Black Album and the Loads. So finally we get another one. It's actually the longest song on the album at almost 10 minutes, I believe. All the band members get a kind of a chance to shine on this one. Like I said, like I said earlier, James has a solo on this one. Kirk has a solo on this one. There's a nice drum breakdown. Robert Trujillo gets on the bass and just starts, fingering away. Good song. It's not their best instrumental, but it's good. And definitely a highlight on this album.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of instrumental music. I definitely have instrumental bands that I listen to. And this to me is how I can argue that you can't say it's one of the second half of the album slumps. And this is one of the best songs on the album, definitely my top 5.
I would put it in middle of the pack.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in my top 3, but it'd be like 4 or 5. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but it'd definitely be 4 or 5. I love it. It's the whole thing is great. It never gets boring. That's hard to do when you have a 10-minute long instrumental song, and they pull it off. And I just nice return to the instrumental. It really showed that it was back to showcasing the band like to play. Songs don't always have because instrumental songs aren't marketable. They're not anything.
You're not going to get a radio hit out of
It's
them.
a jam, and when that's part of what I imagine being in a band is jamming with your friends and coming up with these cool riffs. And you don't have to pigeonhole it into something that has words and things. You just go wherever you want. That's what I like about it. That's why I think it's one of the best songs. You get to see how great the band is, just as musicians, the kind of riffs they came up with that they didn't have to try and make work into any kind of verse, chorus, bridge, solo, type of thing. And that's why I think it's such a great song.
Yeah. So go ahead and finish up with our last song.
Oh yeah, My Apocalypse, the song that is so blatantly wanting to be Dyer's Eve, and my least favorite song on the album, hands down. It's the only real stain on the album. I kind of wish I'd rather had one of the songs from Beyond Magnetic on here instead of this song, but I understand why it's here. They wanted that energy, that little short burst. It is only 5 minutes and like 1 second.
I think it's 5:01.
But it doesn't really do anything for me. It's it's just kind of meh. It's good stuff, I guess, compared to the stuff they've been putting. It's probably better than I'm not familiar enough with Saint Anger to really say, but it's better than most of the songs on Load and Reload, but that definitely not better than all the songs on Load and Reload, and that really tells you how it really slumps the album down, in my opinion.
My Apocalypse is really My Apocalypse on this album. It's my least favorite song on the album. Like you mentioned, it's trying so hard to be Dyer's Eve, and I think Damage Incorporated too. Both of those songs, those high energy, very fast, kind of thrashy end songs that they were trying to go for, it just doesn't work here.
It falls flat.
Yeah, and you compare that to the newest album with Spit Out the Bone, the same type of things going on. They're trying to have that last thrashy energy song, and it it works so much better than My Apocalypse does. My Apocalypse is just, ugh.
And I don't even like Spit Out the Bone that much myself, and it's still better than My Apocalypse.
And you go from the longest song to the shortest song, and there's about a 5-minute difference between the song lengths. This song actually doesn't feel 5 minutes. To me, it feels like it's like 3.5 minutes. It feels like on the level of Hardwired. Really, really fast and blows at everything, and then it's over.
And it's just, I think it was a horrible decision to end the album with it. I mean, again, I understand why it's there. I could understand why some people would like it. I even like Dyer's Eve. I'm not the hugest fan of Dyer's Eve. Out of the three, Damage Incorporated is probably the only one I really like out of all of those enders with the crazy fury. And it doesn't do it for me. I think Suicide Redemption you could have ended it there and it would have been fine.
I think that would have been a much better ending.
Yeah.
Throw one of, you could throw My Apocalypse kind of in the middle there, maybe. But I thought, the Beyond Magnetic songs, throw one of those in there, take My Apocalypse out, and end the album with Suicide Redemption.
Yeah, that would be a great way.
So, do you have a rating for this album?
I give it 9 coffins out of 10. Just because
magnetic coffins.
Yeah, drawing everything near it, just like the cover artwork, since I'm staring at it. It's definitely a great album for a band that I had fallen out of love with. It definitely returned me to it, and I would hope that you only get those every now and again. And Hardwired proved it was special. And while Hardwired is a great album, definitely a good follow up. It definitely showcases how fantastic this album is, because you can't always channel such beauty so regularly. Some bands can do it, multiple times. Some bands can do it here and there. They did it here. They haven't done it, as often. Haven't done it this much. Haven't done anything this good since Justice, and nothing else on top of that. So it's great.
Yeah, and I didn't say earlier. I did say that Justice was my favorite album. But I don't think I said that this is actually my second favorite Metallica album. I know, gasp. I'm saying it's my second favorite album. That's over Master of Puppets. Master would probably be 3. I think Master is a little bit overrated, and this album gives me more of what I want. One track on this album I thought was substandard. There was some filler, but it was really good filler. Judas Kiss and Cyanide. This song, My Apocalypse, the only kind of weak song on the album, but like you said, it's still better than a lot of the stuff on Load and Reload. And I love Load and Reload. I love Saint Anger. I know I'm in the minority of Metallica fans, but this album I give it 9.25 out of 10. I really love this album. This was the album I had wanted for years from Metallica, and finally got it. And like you said, Hardwired is great, but it's not on the level of this.
No, it's not special.
With the exception of My Apocalypse, the only other really negative I have to say about the album is the production, and we've already been over that. So, any final thoughts on the album that you didn't already say?
Final thought that just occurred to me is that we both have the same top 3 for our Metallica albums. That kind of very rarely does that happen with us, and I would rank mine in the same order: Justice as my first, and then this album, and then Master. So that's pretty awesome. I know you're a huge fan of the Black Album, which I'm not. So
Black Album hasn't grown on me. I mean, for 15 years it was a great album, and then in the last 10 years it hasn't been so great.
It just didn't. It doesn't pull the same emotion
no, it
out
doesn't.
of you.
I think I've listened to it too many times.
That's what happens sometimes in life. But great album. Glad to bring back the love, because it's hard when you let someone go because you don't care anymore, and it's nice when you can bring them back into the fold.
All right, so let's do our top 5. For this one here, we're going to do the top 5 Metallica songs, and this is from the entire era. This was so hard for me. It's like trying to pick your favorite child. It's just a pain, and I just came up with the best list I could at this moment. It changes regularly. Like I said, Metallica is my 3rd favorite band. I know people, like I said, are going to gasp that I am going to say this, but there's actually a song on here, 2 songs from the Load and Reload era. So let's see where we go with this, and go ahead with your number 5.
So my number 5 here, it's a song that I don't know if it should have been my number 5. There was a lot of options that it could have been, and finally I picked it because there's been numerous times where I was so into this song And now may not be one of them. My first memory of it, though, that really stood out was we were watching the Binge and Purge live DVD or VHS at that point of them
I don't
playing.
think we've ever watched it on DVD.
I don't think so either. And they were playing on the Justice Tour, and they were playing this song, and just in the middle of the song, they just stop, and they're like, we're done playing that song. And I just thought that was so cool. They're like, nah, we don't care, you know. And it has so much aggression in it, and the opening, it has the best intro on any song on the album, one of their best intros ever, arguably. And it's not even theirs. They ripped it off from a movie, and that's The Wizard of Oz. So the song, if you don't know already, is The Frayed Ends of Sanity from Injustice for All.
All right, that's an interesting one. I did not expect that to be on your list. So my number 5, our first one of the two from the Load and Reload era, and I'm going to go with Bleeding Me. I don't know why I love this song. It hit me when I was 15. You know, the album came out when I was 15, and I really just got into I was in that dark days, your teenage, you're all awkward and stuff, and the lyrics just really, really identified with me and stuck with me. So Bleeding Me, my number 5 Metallica song.
Interesting. So my number 4 is the shortest song on my list. I think it's 6.5 minutes. Again, proving that I like long songs. And oddly enough, mine is from the Load era as well. It was actually Offload. This was a song when I was starting to get into Metallica. I think Ride the Lightning was my first album I bought from them. And this was coming out, and I don't remember which era came first, which one I heard first, or anything like that. But I do remember that this song really stood out for me. And it hasn't aged as well, but I listened to it today to make sure it belonged on my list. I actually pulled the CD out to put it in my car when I was driving to make sure that I want it on here. And that is The House That Jack Built. It's like
the house that Schreck built.
The fourth song or something like
Third
that.
song.
Unload. And just that great intro. It starts off with on the little riff and on the drum, and it just gets better. And it's got the little mouthpiece thing or whatever in it, that Kirk Hammett's using, that Peter Frampton made famous. And
I forget what it's called. I'm just blanking it right now, but it does have a specific name that I forget right now.
But great song. I think it's still a good song, and it's really personal.
So your two have really surprised me so far.
Interesting.
So I'm interested to see what your
top
three
the rest
are.
Ones won't surprise you as much.
So my number 4 is actually off of the universally accepted greatest thrash album of all time, Master of Puppets, and that's the opening track, Battery. Love the beginning of that song, and it just goes into so much, pent-up aggression and so much fury. Battery every time I hit it, it's one of those great openers that just kind of grab you and doesn't let go. So that's probably my number 2 opener on all the Metallica albums. It'd be my number 1 opener. Because Blackened's not on my top 5, so I will say that now. But Battery rocks so hard, I love it.
Here's a fun fact. That's my least favorite song on the album.
Really?
Yeah, it really is.
There's some other weaker songs on that album.
No, that's an argument for another day.
All right.
So
number 3.
My number 3, well, why not number 3? The Unforgiven 3. I love this song so much. I can't even. I know it's almost been 10 years now. So it's had enough time to stew and grow, and the memories of playing it on Guitar Hero, like I was saying, just hearing that song so much because I wanted to play it and everything too helped me. It's the song I've heard off the album by far the most, and you heard me talking about it earlier. I don't need to say
Unforgiven 3 almost made my list. It was just at the cutoff. I had 7 or 8 songs that I picked and then narrowed it down to my top 5, and it was right there on the top of the list. So Unforgiven 3 will not be on my list, but it was close. But my number 3, this is my second one off the Load and Reload era. You know which one this is. Last song on Reload, Fixer.
Really?
You know I love this song.
I can't believe that's on your list.
I don't know what it is about it. Maybe the voodoo kind of inspired lyrics or just the sound or whatever. I love this song. You can hate it all you want, hate on it all you want, but I freaking love this song. Number 3
song on that album.
It's the best song on that album
No.
by far.
No.
Yes.
We'll just have to disagree on
All right. Number 3, Fixer. Doesn't matter what you say, Fixer.
All right. I'm backing off. I'm stepping away. My number 2, it was pretty easy for me to pick this song. It's a song that actually wasn't one of my favorites on even on the album for a while when I first got the album, but eventually it just grew, and now I hear it, I love it. It's one of those songs where I will actually say the lyrics are pretty cool and matter to me, and it stands out. I don't think this one's going to come to you as a surprise at all. Disposable Heroes off of Master of Puppets. Just fantastic song. Really has a lot of, you can feel it, in the early days, James had so much like hostility and aggression in his voice, and that's one of the things that made Master of Puppets great, that stood out about it, was how angry they felt on that album,
Back to the front.
And just, it's so much energy, it's so fun, the lyrics are great, and I'm shocked it's not my number 1.
So you put that at number 2?
Yep, number 2.
All right. What's the best album Metallica has ever done?
Best album Metallica's ever done? Obviously Injustice for All.
All right. So my number 2 is from Injustice for All, and you mentioned it earlier, and you were talking trash about it. And I'm going to go out here and say it's my number 2 favorite song on all Metallica albums, and that is Dyer's Eve. The last track on Justice for All, I freaking love Dyer's Eve.
Oh my.
Battery is the best, like, heavy, thrashy, in-your-face opener, and you gotta say Dyer's Eve is the best in-your-face, thrashy ending song on a Metallica album. Dyer's Eve, I freaking love that song.
It's one of my least favorite songs on the album. I am amazed at that, and I know how many people love it, so I shouldn't be that surprised.
And there's a reason a lot of people love it, because it's awesome.
No, there's a lot of people love Nirvana, but that doesn't make them awesome.
It's a kick you in the balls song.
Well, you're talking about the best thing they ever did. Everything on that album's great. So again, it's like I was saying earlier when we were talking bad things about Death Magnetic. So I don't like the song that much. Still, their best album, still better than most of the songs on their other albums.
All right, so let's hear your favorite song from Metallica of all time.
Well, it should be pretty obvious what album it's going to be off of at this point. And
Justice for All?
I wonder. And there was no doubt in my mind on which song this would be. It's definitely the best song on the album in my opinion. And if it's not your number 1, I will beat you. And that is going to be Injustice for All. The title track, it is fantastic. Another example of a song I really love to play on Rock Band, actually, for this one. I was so proud when I was finally able to beat it on Expert. And it's so fantastic. It's got so much energy. I don't know what else to say about it. I get verklempt when I talk about it, because it's such a beautiful track. It's Injustice is one of the best metal albums of all time, and Injustice for All, the song, is one of the best metal songs of all time.
All right, so I told you I had like 7 or 8, 9, something like that, and I had to lower it down to 5. On that list, there were 3 Justice songs: Dyer's Eve, Blackened, and my number 1 song from Metallica all time, same as yours, and Justice for All. Best Metallica song, hands down. There's no question.
I really like that it worked out that way, because we didn't talk about this.
No, we do this all separately, and then we just kind of go here and see how things flow. And Justice for All, easy, best song on Justice, best song in the early years, best song of all time Metallica. No question about it.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's end this with the pick of the week. You started with the top 5. I'll go ahead and start with my pick of the week. I didn't mention it as much as you did, but I always try to make my pick of the week have some kind of resemblance to the topic that we're discussing. So my pick of the week is actually going to be Beyond Magnetic. If you like the songs on Death Magnetic, check out Beyond Magnetic. Now, the songs, it does seem like they're okay bonus tracks, could have been added onto the album. Would have probably brought it down, maybe a little bit of filler, but the production is much better on this than you get on Death Magnetic, and the songs kind of show where the band was at the time. They're still great songs, still songs that I would love to have heard on Saint Anger or Reload. Would have been really good songs on those albums, but as they stand here, they don't compare to most of the stuff that's on Death Magnetic, but they're still good. So check out Beyond Magnetic EP, just for a little bit of the flavor of this Death Magnetic time period.
All right, and mine is going to be an interesting choice here. One thing between you and me is you love Metallica, your third favorite band, I believe you stated.
Yes.
Well, my second favorite band is Megadeth. And we could go into the Megadeth Metallica.
We might have to do a Megadeth or Metallica argument at one time.
So my pick of the week is actually the most recent Megadeth album, Dystopia, which I was amazed how much I loved this. The last album before it, Super Collider, was kind of a letdown. It felt like the band was kind of slipping because their releases in the past few years have been great. And Super Collider was definitely at the bottom of those. And then they return with Dystopia, which is like my third favorite Megadeth album of all time, probably at this point. I think it's it's definitely up there. It'd be a tough battle if maybe even more than Death Magnetic. It's that kind of album, I feel. I think it's that great. And I was so excited to have that opportunity to share this. I waited this whole time to bring up the whole Megadeth thing because of how Megadeth is in my life. And here it is at the end. My pick of the week, Dystopia, Megadeth. Check it out.
And I know how much you love Dystopia. Something I forgot to mention. I don't think I mentioned it in our discussion, but I think Death Magnetic is the best thrash album, maybe my favorite album in the last 10 years to be released. And it's definitely in one of the best thrash albums of all time. But Dystopia, good album, good pick. So any final words before we say good night?
Megadeth.
All right. So thanks for joining us in another Schreck Talk podcast. We are the Nerd Generation. Please visit us on Podbean. You can download our episodes there. We also have our episodes up on YouTube, so check them out. Working on getting our episodes up onto iTunes, so hopefully that'll be we'll be going good with that by the time this one comes and gets released. Visit our Facebook page. We're at Schreck Talk. And thanks for joining us. Good night.
Latest.
Go away or I shall taunt you a second time!